And welcome, Hoosier fans, to another victorious episode of Doing the Work, the first show on the Back Home Network dedicated to covering IU women's basketball. Today is our 158th episode, recorded on the afternoon of Friday, March 21st, 2025. I'm your host, Kathy Amos, and I'm running solo tonight as my partner, Jeff, has decided he and his lovely wife needed a vacation to Hawaii. So you're getting just me running by myself today. But today I will be discussing with you the Indiana Hoosiers win in the NCAA tournament over Utah 76-68. And that brings the record to 20-12. But before we get into it, we're going to start our show with, as we do every show, and that's with our Hoosier Proud banner moment. And in a game really where the first half was literally neck and neck, tied at the end of both the first and the second quarter, Indiana came out in that third quarter and really just pulled away there to get up to a double-digit lead. But then almost losing it towards the end of the fourth quarter, there's actually quite a few places you can go to for the Hoosier Proud banner moment. In fact, I have three in total that really come to mind. So I'm just going to use all three for my banner moment. So the first one, which is an in-game one, is for Chloe Moore McNeil. In the second quarter, she had an assist in that quarter that got her to her 500th career assist all time. Now, she's not going to move up any farther on the record board in terms of where she's currently at. However, 500 career assists is just an amazing feat for anybody that we can say. And again, this is just a testament to Chloe's both unselfish play and her hard work that she's had in her 5 years. The other places I'm going is just kind of a general big theme for the program. So with that 20th win today, that was our 10th straight season for Coach Morin to have a 20-win season or more. In fact, the only time Coach Morin has not achieved 20 wins is in her very first season. So 10 back-to-back seasons is just amazing. Additionally, just another great feat by Coach Morin and all of her staff and the players that have come along with her is this is another opening win in the NCAA. This is now 7-0 under Coach Morin, where when we've been in the NCAA, we've made it 7-0 to open up the entire tournament. So just, again, a really fantastic feat for Coach Morin and the entire Indiana program. So our banner moment is brought to you by Home Field Apparel, the presenting sponsor of the Back Home Network, which includes Assembly Call, Crimson Cast, X's and Joe's, and the Dribble Drive. Home Field is constantly releasing new schools or updating their schools and their current product line. So you're bound to find anything that will work for you or anyone else in your life that loves great collegiate gear. And in fact, this is probably their prime time that you can get anything that you want for collegiate gear from Home Field. They're putting out great stuff with not just every day, but probably multiple times throughout the day as teams continue to win and advance throughout the NCAA tournament. They're really highlighting a lot of teams. So go to homefieldapparel.com. And if it's your first time ordering, you can use our promo code HOME23 to get 15% off your entire first order. Again, that's promo code HOME23 for 15% off. And the website is homefieldapparel.com. Wear one for the team. Okay, I'm going to quickly hit some news that we really don't have a whole lot from the Big Ten tournament. However, just wanted to highlight that for those of you following along at home and playing at home in terms of any incoming recruits, one of our freshmen coming next year, Maya Makalewski, was named Indiana Miss Basketball. So counting her coming in next year and our current players and staff, we actually have 3 Indiana Miss Basketballs associated with the program. So Maya is number 3. Of course, we also have Allie Patberg on the staff, and then we have Cindy Parrish, who is playing right now. So I'm going to just go ahead and jump into some of the pivotal plays that I saw throughout the game. If you are listening live, thank you for that as always. And if you have anything you want to drop in the chat, I'll be sure to mention it here for anybody that's listening later as well. So first of all, let's talk about the first 2 quarters. I think we'll just talk about that in general. So, coming into this game, I think a lot of people, myself included, expected to have just a 3-point barrage of shooting from both teams, to be quite honest. Both teams were really hit the three, made the three, and that's not what we saw. In fact, we saw quite a few just behind buckets by, well, first, actually, ironically, I thought it was going to, because Shea Chesky hit the first bucket, which was a three. That was congratulations as well to Shea. That was her first NCAA game. So, if you remember, she came from Penn State. They did not make the tournament when Shea played for them. So this is her first NCAA game. And my question at that point were, will the threes continue to fall? Well, they did not. And really, to be quite honest, they didn't really happen for either team. One thing I thought that was really great is that I thought Caroline Striplin, especially in the first half, is really struggling with this game. And coach put Lily in, who's also been struggling, especially in Big Ten play. And I thought Lily really found her groove today. In fact, we found her a number of times down low to get the bucket. Chloe found her for two underneath. Shea found her for another bucket underneath to put us up early 7-6. But really, this whole first quarter in general was just both teams finding people under the basket, which is good because during that quarter, we were only 1 of 6 from the three. And in fact, we had 12 lead changes. So the other thing that was kind of plaguing us in that first quarter in particular were the turnovers. So we had 3 turnovers in that. In fact, we ended up with 8 on the first half. So just in general, that first half was a bit sloppy. We weren't hitting our threes. So, and Yarden really wasn't going in that first quarter, but we came out in the second quarter. They ran a really nice out of the timeout play to get a bucket for Yarden. She hit that 3, but then Utah went on a 9-0 run to put them up 20-26. And the thing again, but I saw from both teams, especially, but Utah in that second quarter, they were really cutting and getting people inside. But finally, our defense stepped up for a possession. We forced a shot clock violation right into the media timeout with Utah up 22-28. But then Utah went on yet another 11-2 run over 5 minutes, but our defense held up. And then we really started finding some people to get some buckets. And we ended up tied 31-31 at the end of that quarter. In the first half. So again, like I thought, Striplin was really fumbling. She kind of fumbled the ball. She missed the shot, but then Chloe got a nice offensive rebound. That was how we ended that quarter. Sydney got her first bucket finally with 3 at 29 seconds to go. So that's kind of how we finished that on a 5-0 run to get back into that game. So the interesting thing then, we'll go into the third quarter. So before that, some of our first half stats that we had, we were shooting fine in terms of overall field goal percentage, 48% for us, 45% for Utah. But again, as I mentioned, the 3-pointer were just not falling for either team. We were 3 of 11, which is 27%, and Utah was 3 of 13 for 23%. The other thing that was wanted to point out too is that we had 10 bench points in that first half, 8 of them from Lily, and then 2 from Lexi Barkesser. So again, Lily's been kind of struggling, but I thought that she looked really, really good in this game. And, I think when we get into some of the statistics, we'll talk a little bit more about Lily as well. The third quarter then. So this was just, I think, where we separated ourselves in the third quarter. We ended up outscoring Utah 27-16 in this quarter. And it really looked like we were making a conscious effort to get that ball down to Yarden and get Yarden going. There was a nice play where Striplin had just a great seal off of her player that gave Yarden a nice open basket down to the bucket to put in IU up 40-35. And then later Yarden finds Lily for 2. And then Lily gets a block on the other end. Again, just another example of how I thought this game was working really well for Lily. Chloe Moore McNeil just fights for a defensive rebound, and then just this wonderful baseball pass to Shea Chesky on the other end for a fast break layup, then puts IU up 48-39 and forced Utah to take a timeout. Again, I thought this was just another important play because it gave us just another glimpse into Chloe Moore McNeil and how her toughness was something that we always seen, and her basketball IQ with that pass to find Shea Chesky breaking towards the other end. And I've been a little critical of Striplin, but, her second half was a little better. She did find Shea Chesky going to the bucket, and Shea just put up this really lovely one-legged shot to put IU up 58-47, and that's how we would end the third quarter. Now, we come out in the fourth quarter, and I fully expected them to continue going down low. They seem to be finding a little bit of success with that in the third quarter. However, instead, it seems like the three-point shots finally started falling for Utah. In fact, Neepkins, who made a three and got fouled by Chloe made her free throw for a 4-point play to put them within 9, 62-53, and then Utah goes on a 7-0 run to get them within 6. However, again, just a testament to our players. They just didn't quit. And Chloe had yet another assist, this time to Sydney, who hit a three-pointer, 67-58. And then again, like I mentioned, Utah just was really hitting their three-pointers. I think at one point, I know they were up to around 11 or so. We'll talk more in total stats later. But they did get it within 4, but they just never could seem to close that gap from 4 points. And Indiana was able to hold on, even though they did get outscored by 3, 18-21 in that fourth quarter, and hung on to win 76-68. We'll talk more about who we're all assuming is going to be their next opponent later, but we do have some numbers to get to. So let me jump into some team numbers here that we have. So luckily, I have a great friend, Ari, who's at the game and got some better press media statistics than what I'm able to find online. So in terms of the team, they did end up shooting and making a 58% field goal percentage. And they did that on 19 assists. So 19 assists on 29 field goals made. Again, this was not our day for 3-point shooting, which again was a big surprise to me. But because if you listened to Jeff and I kind of highlighting a little bit of this game when we did this Selection Sunday show, we really expected both of these teams to come out and shoot the three-pointer quite a bit, but it just wasn't falling for us today. We ended up 5 of 17 from three-point land, 29, which is 29%. And you compare that to Utah, they were really jacking it up. They ended up 9 of 32 for 28%. So they did make 4 more than us, but it took them a while to get there, and at least 28%. So clearly both teams followed their scouting reports, right, and knew that both teams like to shoot the three. The nice thing here is that we just had some really great drives. Ended up getting us to the free throw line as well. So we had 13 of 15 from the line versus 7 of 11, which was a nice advantage there from us on the line as well. So turnovers, we ended up with only 9 on the game. And again, like I mentioned, there was 8 in the first half. We only forced 13 for Utah. But it did, excuse me, that's not right. Sorry. So we ended up with 12 turnovers for us and forced 11 for Utah. And Utah did score 13 points. That's where I'm at. We did outscore Utah in the paint just barely, 30-26. And where I think we really made a big difference and really exposed Utah was really in transition. So our defense forced a number of steals. We ended up with 6 steals and a block as well, I mentioned to Lily, but that led to 14 fast break points for us compared to 2 for Utah. So a 12-point advantage there. The other advantage we had was actually from our bench, 13 points from our bench, 9 for Utah. So again, I had mentioned Lily had 11 of those 13 points for the game. So I thought this was just a nice game from Lily overall. So the other thing that, Jeff and I have been really watching this year are the rebounds. So Indiana actually was pretty much even with Utah. 29 rebounds for them, 28 for us. So just really in second chance points, though, is where they really hurt us. 11 for them and none for Indiana. So that's something that they're really going to have to look at here on film, hopefully between now and their next game, which will be on Sunday. So those were some of the overall statistics I saw for the team that really kind of jump out to me. So with that, we're going to talk some individuals. And with that, I will also talk about who I think will get our game ball. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can see at the bottom of the screen a ticker with all of the numbers we have for this year. So Yarden Garzone leads the way with 8, followed by Sydney Parrish with 7, Chloe Moore McNeil and Shay Chusky each with 5, Lily Meister and Caroline Strickland with 3. So let's just talk about some of this. So I think there's just a lot of really, really good choices here for game ball. In fact, we ended up with 5 players in double digits. 4 of them were our starters. The one starter who did not was Sydney Parrish. So let me talk a little bit about Sydney. So Sydney ended up fouling out of the game with 1:51 to go. She ended up with 8 points and 4 assists. Only 1 turnover. Where she really shined today, though, was on the rebound on the glass. She ended up with 8 rebounds, but she was only 3 of 6 shooting. And she did make 2 of her 5 3-pointers. But overall, I thought there were some low IQ things from Sydney today that were a little bit out of characteristics that, for example, one that really jumps to my head is late into the game, there was a scramble for a ball and Sydney came up with it with couple of Utah players around her. Sydney could have held on to that and probably forced a jump ball. Instead, she tried to throw the ball and get it to Indiana, where it ended up turning into a turnover, led to a Utah 3-pointer, and that really could have hurt us down the stretch. But so it wasn't by some of the games we've seen from Sydney was not her best game, but overall I thought she played incredibly hard. Then we did, like I mentioned, had 5 players in double figures. So we were led by Yarden Garzon with 17 points. She did this on 6 of 12 shooting, 1 of 4 from 3-point land, and she made all of her free throws. And she also contributed 7 rebounds. Followed closely to Yarden was 16 points for Shay Chusky. She did this on 6 of 8 shooting with 2 rebounds and 3 assists. I think the thing for me that sticks out for Shay was the turnovers. She had 5 of the team's 12 turnovers. Next, you were followed with Chloe Moore McNeil with 12, Lily Meister had 11, and Caroline Strickland with 10. So that leads us to the conversation of where are we going to go for our game ball? So I think that's really hard in this game, and where I'm going to finally land. And again, if there's anyone and has ideas in the chat and want to debate with me, I'm perfectly open to this. But I think for me, I am going to go with Chloe Moore McNeil. Even though she did not lead this team in scoring, I don't think it's always necessarily about scoring, right? We know basketball is made up of a lot more than that. For me, I think it was also her two steals that she had, the 5 rebounds. And I think the thing that jumps out to me again is her 8 assists. So again, Chloe got her 500th plus assists today with those 8 assists. And even though she wasn't going to be the top scorer, she did what we needed her to do, which was to find her players, her teammates for that. So for me, I'm going to go ahead and give my game ball to Chloe Moore McNeil, and that will give her 6th game ball on the year. So we'll continue talking about some of the individual play here with the Grace Berger Hardest Worker Award. Again, I think there's a number of players that you can go with here. But before we get into it, we'll talk about who's already gotten it on the year. So Shay Chusky and Sydney Parrish each have 6. Then we have Chloe Moore McNeil, Yarden Garzon with 5, Caroline Strickland, Lily Meister with 3, and then 1 each for Jules, Hannah Sandvik, and Faith Wiseman. One thing I should point out too, for those of you maybe who weren't aware, it's not been anywhere I've seen a whole lot, but Jules did not play in this game. You could see her over on the bench, but unfortunately she was not dressed today. She was sitting there with a boot on. So we have no information on what the injury was, but unfortunately Jules was just not available for this game. Again, so I think that we could go a number of ways for our Grace Berger Hardest Worker Award. I think Shay Chusky had some fantastic points or baskets, especially some of her mid-range baskets that really jumped out to me. I thought that Yarden had a much better second half when they really seemed to be targeting her. And not only that, she had 7 rebounds. So great contribution there. Caroline, as I mentioned, I didn't think her first half was great, but she did I thought she was fine in the second half. But where I'm finally going to land for my Grace Berger Hardest Worker is Lily Meister. Again, Lily Meister came in off the bench. She had 11 points, and at 15 minutes, she was 5 of 5 from the field goal. She made 1 of 2 from the line. She had an assist. She had a rebound. She had a block. Only 1 turnover. She had 3 fouls, which I guess we could talk a little bit about. She had 2 quick back-to-back fouls in the first half, 1 offensive foul and one defensive foul in a time they really weren't calling a whole lot of fouls. So it was kind of confusing why Lily all of a sudden got 2 back-to-back, but I'm not holding that against her. So for me, I thought this was just a game that it seemed Lily played within herself. She didn't seem rushed. She didn't seem like she was overthinking her shots. And I really just loved what I saw from Lily. In fact, I think I said to my husband as he was watching the second half with me, it just felt like we actually could have played Lily more than the 15 points. I thought she had a stronger game than Caroline Striplin in terms of our post players. So 15 minutes from Lily, I thought could have been more than that. So for me, that is going to be Lily's Grace Berger Hardest Worker Award for now the 4th time. So that's where we're at with the game. I don't have a whole lot more to say about it. I thought, again, it was just a really gutty, gritty, tough effort by our entire team. Like I mentioned, 5 players in double digits, almost a 6th one following right after that. You know, we had a couple of 6 minutes from Hannah Stanvik and 12 from Lexi Bargesser. So we will now turn and look to our next I guess I should talk a little bit about some of the numbers real quick. I already mentioned that Chloe Moore McNeil surpassed the 500 mark in her 5 assists. And with the 1 3-pointer today from Yarden, that's 218 on her career. So she is inching up again towards that mark we're going to start watching now, which is to get her to 300. So that is just a quick numbers watch. But let's talk about our upcoming schedule. So we don't 100% know who we're going to play, but I would suggest that we feel probably pretty confident that we are going to end up playing South Carolina. We are in the bracket with South Carolina. That is the number 1 seed there. They will be taking on Tennessee Tech here at 4 Eastern or 3 Central if you are listening live. All expectations is that South Carolina will have 0 effort or 0 problem handling Tennessee Tech. So I'm approaching this from, sorry, Tennessee Tech. I'm just going to assume that we are going to be playing South Carolina on Sunday. No tip time for that, but candidly, it will probably be, again, early afternoon. They tend to kind of get you in that same time frame after your first game, but just keep an eye on the ESPN app. It will be on one of the ESPN channels as well. I'm guessing, again, since it's South Carolina, it will most likely be on regular ESPN, but again, so just keep an eye on that. So I did preemptively hope we would win, as always hope that. And I assume, again, we're meeting South Carolina on Sunday. So I have some statistics here that probably aren't going to shock anybody that follows women basketball. So South Carolina is good. In case you weren't sure. They have 3 players actually that average in double digits in terms of scoring. Joyce Edwards at 13 points, Malaysia Fulwali at 12 points, and then Chloe Kitts at 10. But to be honest, South Carolina is just stacked. They have a ton of players that they spread the ball around to. They play quite deep. In terms of a team, they are, prior to their game this afternoon, they're coming in at a 30-3 record. One of those, interestingly, was a loss early on to, I believe, UCLA. Will fact check myself here as I try to talk as well, unless someone in the stat line here, or excuse me, the chat can help me with that. So, I just got information that Jules injured her foot in practice, and she is not available at all for the entire tournament. So Jules, unfortunately, is out for the year. So thank you for the update, for people helping me out as I'm trying to run solo here. So South Carolina got the 2nd overall seed behind UCLA, coming in from the selection committee. They are on offense, averaging 80.5 points per game. That is 11th in the country. They only allow 57.8 points per game. So that's 36th in the country. So again, to get to a 30-3 record, you are not going to just be one-sided. And that's definitely the case, again, from South Carolina, the defending national champs from last year, as we all remember. In terms of shooting, they're very good at shooting. That's a shock too, right? 46.5% is their field goal range, field goal percentage, which is 15th in the nation. Effective field goal percentage is 50.8, which is good for 44th. I guess if we're looking for a little bit of a blemish, they are only shoot 32.8% from 3-point land, which is 113th in the nation. So before this game, we were definitely ahead of them in that range. However, I don't believe they take a whole lot of threes. Again, the percent of points from three is only 20%. They do by far get the most of their points from the 2-point range, and then followed by from the free throw line. So again, just kind of keep an eye on that as well. That might be some place, if we can try to force them outside, that might be a place we can get some kind of advantage. Hopefully on Sunday, our 3-point shots are falling a little better. Again, if we can get to that magical 10 3-pointers made, we are still undefeated if we can get to that mark. Rebounding, again, something you would expect that South Carolina would have a huge margin. They only out-rebound their teams by 3.5 rebounds per game. However, they do turn over their opponents by almost 6 more per game than on average. So again, I would just keep an eye on trying to run them out, but and yeah, 3-pointers attempted, they are down at around the 194th range. So they definitely don't rely on the 3-point range a whole lot. So that is just something I think we maybe can keep an eye on. So I think we can really just say, in general, the same thing we talked about with USC and UCLA. These teams are not getting a number 1 seed because they're easy. So yes, thank you. Somebody, my husband looked it up for me. UCLA was one of their losses. Their other 2 losses came to UConn and Texas. So Texas is the other number 1 seed, and then UConn is expected to probably make a deep run at a number 2. So 3, I guess we'll call them good losses for South Carolina. We're going to have to play our all best game again. We saw that against USC when we tried that in the Big Ten tournament. They're going to have to make sure they're not turning the ball over. They're going to have to hit the glass as much as they can. I do not expect us to out-rebound South Carolina, but we at least have to try to not have it into an absorbent amount. Somehow we have to figure out how to keep them from second chance points as well. And then I think really, again, the key for our team is the 3-point shot. Hopefully that 3-point shot falls for us on Sunday and we can get more than the 5 we got today. Without that, I think that our chances are slim to none, especially being in South Carolina. But they also play the games for a reason. It is not predetermined, and we need to just go ahead and play it with house money, like we have nothing to lose, because honestly, we really don't. So everybody, I think this is just a great opportunity. Again, I'm sure the committee, maybe not, we're looking a little bit at how we were, the team that held them to the lowest win margin last year on their win run to the championship game. However, I think that this is just probably a different team for us in general that might be a little hard to overcome, but I'm going to be there watching, and I will be on live right after the game if you guys want to come and talk about hopefully the upset of the tournament here that we can have the opportunity to pull off. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time here. Hopefully you're all invested in watching the NCAA tournaments, both men and women. But the Big Ten, if you missed it though, did get a record number of teams into the tournament. They got 12 into the tournament. Besides us, we've had 2 play already. On Thursday night, we had Washington taking on Columbia in a play-in game. They lost that one in a nail-biter, 60-63. And then earlier today, Michigan defeated Iowa State 80-74. So Michigan had to come back in that game. Iowa State was really hitting Audie Crooks down low, and then Audie Crooks got into some foul trouble and had to sit, and Michigan was able to come back and win that. Other teams playing, we have today Montana State against Ohio State, who also is a hosting team. Oregon will be taking on Vanderbilt. Nebraska will be taking on Louisville, which also should look to be a really interesting and fun game, I think, between Nebraska and that Louisville team. I think that's fun. That might be one to circle if you have a chance to watch. And then UCLA will be taking on Southern. Then tomorrow we have yet a whole nother host of teams playing Murray State against Iowa. Iowa's been playing pretty hot, so don't count them out right now at all. And in terms of location, Iowa got a pretty good location, not to mention their 6th seed. So here we go. Iowa, you never know with them, especially in postseason. They looked really good in the Big Ten tournament. They're playing in Oklahoma, which isn't far from here in Des Moines. So I'd expect a lot of Iowa fans. USC will be taking on UNC Greensboro. Maryland will be taking on Norfolk State, who is also hosting. Michigan State is taking on our third Ivy League team playing this tournament. They will be playing Harvard, and then finally Illinois and Creighton will be playing. Again, Illinois and Creighton is just another really fun one to kind of keep an eye on as well. I think that will turn out to be a really fun. I think that's an 8-9 game. So those are some of the around the Big Ten things that I have for you. So with that, I will play us a little bit of music, and I'll just kind of wrap it up with my own final thoughts. All right, my final thoughts for this. Again, just congratulations to Coach Morin and the team. They had another 21 season, 10 in a row, 7 wins out of 7 attempts in the opening of the NCAA tournament. Chloe Moore McNeil with her 500th assist in her career. It's just really an amazing thing here to see our program again. You know, it may not be the season that everyone was expecting or hoping for, especially after the last 4 or 5 seasons. We've been a little bit spoiled, I think, as a program where we have now come to not just expect to get into the tournament to win and continue to move on. So to see our women fulfill that and continue on, I think is just an amazing. So I'm just really excited. I think this opportunity on Sunday is, again, playing with house money. No one's going to expect Indiana to come out and do anything. So I just want us to go out there, put our best, feet forward as a team, play collectively, play like we know we can play. Hopefully those threes are falling and we can just go out and shock the world. So that's really what's next for us, right? Jeff will still be on vacation, so I will come back here. I plan on doing a show live after the game on Sunday. So hopefully we'll be talking again about our potential upcoming opponent for the Sweet 16. You never know. That's why we play the game. So thank you for everyone coming here and talking with me live in the chat and listening to me after the fact. And if you do want to see us do the show live and be part of the live chat, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can find that at youtube.com/@BackHomeNetwork. You can be part of our private community as well. Go to assemblycall.substack.com to find out more. A special thanks to John Ringer of Riggs Design for designing our logos, and a big thank you to Bob Thompson for the music you heard throughout the broadcast. But most of all, again, thank you for everyone listening live with me here at the moment or listening after the fact. We wouldn't be here without you. So we'll be back to talk IU hoops with you again on Sunday after the South Carolina game, assuming a South Carolina game. But until then, keep your elbow in, your eyes on the rim, and let's go Hoosiers. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a happy Friday.